Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I'll begin with the questioning. And one of the first things I'd like to talk to you about is actually something that is under the auspices of CMS. And I spoke with Dr. Oz last night about this. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, though. And that is that in the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's a lot of attacks right now going on publicly about hospitals are in trouble. And the blame for that is placed on the bill, even though the bill hasn't even been implemented yet. The fact is, this committee held hearings on the troubles that rural hospitals are facing in the United States before the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. They've been facing difficulties in rural America for a number of years now. And the bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, contained a rural health transformation program, which I would just like to ask you to comment on. This is the program which allocated $50 billion over the next 5 years to our rural community hospitals in the United States to help them deal with some of the financial crises that they are facing and transition to more stability. Could you comment on that program that is in the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Yes, Senator. One of President Trump's campaign promises and one of the principal preoccupations, not only of Republican senators when I did my confirmation hearing, but also almost equally among Democratic senators, was crisis in rural health. We've had 120 rural hospitals close over the past 10 years. These institutions are not just delivering health access to rural Americans, but they are economic centers, they are cultural centers for those communities. They are often the largest employer. They are the highest paying jobs, and they are the centerpiece for those communities. So when they die, the communities collapse. And President Trump promised to do something about that, and he has delivered on that promise. Right now, we spend about 6% of Medicaid funding is sent to rural hospitals, a very, very tiny slice, and that's one of the reasons they're in trouble. President Trump has now allocated through the One Big Beautiful Bill $50 billion, so $10 billion a year over the next 5 years. What we give to rural hospitals, that 6% represents $19 billion a year. So we're increasing that by $10 billion. So we're infusing more than 50% increase in the amount of money that is going to rural communities over the next 5 years. There's never been anything like that in history. It is the biggest investment, and it should stem this hemorrhage.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate your giving clarity to that, because it is frustrating to see these continuous allegations that the difficulties that our rural hospitals are facing all were created in the last few months when we passed a bill, when we've been holding hearings in this committee about these problems. And in the bill that we passed, we gave a $50 billion boost to, as you indicated, increase by 50% the federal support for our community rural hospitals in the United States. And I think that the hospital owners understand that. They recognize this support. In fact, they are coming they're coming together very carefully with Dr. Oz to work on the rollout of this program so that we can see this boost and this support that is coming. Just another one of the disagreements we have about what really was in the One Big Beautiful Bill. So I appreciate you commenting on that. In the last minute and 10 seconds that I have with you, could you just quickly talk once again about the broad issue of making America healthy again in terms of our aim to change the healthcare system's focus from a reactive symptom management model to one that focuses on lifestyle choices and the root causes of chronic disease?
Yes, Senator, you know, this morning I got the latest numbers from CDC that 76.4% of Americans now have a chronic disease. This is stunning. When my uncle was president, it was 11%. 1950, it was 3%. Today, it's 76.4%. 8 out of 10 of our kids cannot qualify for military service. This is a national security issue. When my uncle was president, we spent $0 on chronic disease. Today, we spend $1.3 trillion. It's the biggest cause, and it's increasing. And all of the arguments that Republicans and Democrats have about single payer, Obamacare, or with the various ways to allocate the health dollars. They're all like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. If we don't end this chronic disease, we are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I have to cut myself off to make sure I keep to this time frame too. Senator White.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've made it clear. I think that Secretary Kennedy is dead set on making it harder for children to get vaccines and that kids are going to die because of it. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put in the record today an op-ed written by Susan Monarez, who was fired by Mr. Kennedy.
Without objection.
So what we know, and Dr. Monarez, was approved by Republicans. She wrote an op-ed today in the Wall Street Journal, which I've just put in the record, and I quote her. She said, "I was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel newly filled with people who have publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric." So this is not some liberal philosopher or something. This is the CDC director who tells the Wall Street Journal, which is not exactly interested in progressive, theories and the like, that she was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel filled with people who've publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric. So my first question, Mr. Secretary, is did you in fact do what Director Monarez said you did, which is tell her to just go along with vaccine recommendations even if she didn't think such recommendations aligned with scientific evidence? That is
No, I did not.
That's a yes or no. So you have an opportunity to call her a liar if you say that you didn't do it, but I'd like to see you respond to this.
No, I did not say that to her. And I never had a private meeting with her. So there are witnesses to every meeting that we have, and all of those witnesses will say, I never said that.
So she's lying today to the American people in the Wall Street Journal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk now about what's coming up, because I've made it clear what I've thought about the 203 days with my colleague, Senator Also Brooks. In 2 weeks, CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices will meet to make decisions about critical vaccines that protect us against hepatitis B, measles, and more. The committee's got a profound impact on vaccine access, but these aren't ordinary meetings. You've stacked the deck to ensure the panel bends to your views. In June, you fired all 17 committee members who are respected scientists and doctors. You replaced them with non-experts, vaccine skeptics, and conspiracy theorists. As a result, this critical advisory panel has lost scientific credibility. After years, colleagues, we spend so much time not looking at this as Democrats and Republicans, but as good science and scientific credibility. And now the American Academy of Pediatrics has warned that the committee is being politicized at the expense of children's health. American Academy of Pediatrics, you think they're lying too?
I think the American Academy of Pediatrics is gravely conflicted. They get, for their biggest contributors are the 4 largest vaccine makers. They run a journal, Pediatrics, which they make a lot of money on, that is completely dependent on pharmaceutical companies. So I wouldn't put a big stake in what they say that benefits pharmaceutical interests. Senator, I didn't politicize ACIP, I depoliticized it. The Congress has been investigating ACIP.
All over the country, Mr. Secretary, scientists and doctors are saying otherwise. They're all wrong too. They're all lying, according to you.
The scientists and doctors are supporting me all over the country. There is division on opinion.
I don't get letters from thousands of people who are not political saying that this set of changes is going to damage American healthcare, and particularly these healthcare agencies, for decades to come. I don't get any letters from people saying, hey, this is going to make a big difference forever.
Yeah, maybe you're listening to a selective group of people.
Well, you get me.
Yeah, and I will.
Fine.
I will tell you what, Senator,
got
I
30
will
seconds.
put my mailbag against your mailbag any day of the week.
30 seconds. Dangerous respiratory viruses like RSV are on the agenda for the next advisory meeting. Countless parents have been awakened in the dead of night by a wheezing kid gasping for air, forced to rush their little one to the ER. There's no worse heart-wrenching fear. The RSV vaccine offers these kids protection against the worst effects of the virus. But now it looks like you're on a crusade to make infants and babies more vulnerable to the terrible illness. That's what we're doing with the COVID changes.
And please make your answer brief, Mr. Secretary.
I've said that
The position is indefensible. I think it's possible.
Congress has been investigating that committee for 23 years because it is pervaded with conflicts of interest. What we did is we got rid of the conflicts of interest and we depoliticized it and put great scientists on it from a very diverse group. By the way, some very pro-vaccine.
Let me close with this because, like Senator Crapo, I'm a few seconds over. I don't think, Mr. Secretary, this is about you and me. This is about kids being pushed in harm's way by reckless and repeated decisions to get scientists and doctors out of the way and allow conspiracy theories to dictate this country's health policy. I don't see any evidence that you have any regrets about anything you've done or plans to change it. And my last comment is, I hope that you will tell the American people how many preventable child deaths are an acceptable sacrifice for enacting an agenda that I think is fundamentally cruel and defies common sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do I got a reply? Or, Senator, you've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. And you said nothing. You never asked the question why it's happening. Why is this happening? Today, for the first time in 20 years, we learned that infant mortality has increased in our country. It's not because I came in here. It's because of what happened during the Biden administration that we're going to end.
I'm going to let Senator Wyden respond briefly to that, and then we're not going to go over like we just did.
Defend this committee on a bipartisan basis. Colleagues, my cabinet secretary says that we have no interest in chronic care. Mr. Secretary,
Mr. Chairman, could we have regular order, please?
We are in the process of turning around the Medicare program with the chronic care bill that Chairman Hatch, when he was chairman, and this committee put together on a bipartisan basis.
All right, we're going to proceed. And I just want the rest of the members to know, I gave Senator Wyden as ranking member some leeway there, but we're going to stick to the 5